Hey y'all, can you hear me? I'm practicing my y'alls because I'm in Texas. We're going to get started with part 2 of the Innovation Showcase presented by TechNexus Venture Collaborative. So again, thank you so much for coming out to Outdoor Day. As you can see through my moderation earlier, I am very passionate about the outdoors and the Midwest and entrepreneurs and corporate innovation and all the fun stuff. So please come on in. I'm going to introduce the speakers we have for this next section, part 2 of the showcase, where we're really going to focus on and hear from 2 storied leaders, investors, technology leaders, and ecosystem conveners, Fred Hoch of TechNexus Venture Collaborative and David Olila from, 100K Shop Park.
Go Shophouse Park.
Okay, awesome. They will introduce themselves when I get off stage, but they're going to talk a lot about the outdoor sector, investing in it, financial opportunities, but also development opportunities from an economic perspective, community development, and corporate development. So I'm just going to let them flow up here and get off stage. So without further ado, Fred and David.
Yay! All right. Thank you, Maddie. Appreciate those kind words and kicking us off. Welcome, everybody. The fact of the matter is, as we start this thing, that David and I don't know each other. We've never met before 20 minutes ago, and we're going to use this to get to know each other and to tell a story about what's going on in the outdoor space. So why don't we kick it off with, what the heck is your story, Dave, and how do you fit into the outdoor space?
Oh my goodness, how much time do we have for my story?
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
I have a partner who talks too much, so I know how to cut you off.
I'll try to encapsulate it as little as I possibly can. I was born in 1970, and I was one of those kids whose mother said, in or out, make a choice, and my choice was always out. And I've been kind of a hyper outdoor kid. I grew up in an era where you didn't wear helmets on your BMX bike.
That's right.
So I probably had a little bit of damage from that. I'm an inventor, if I could be anything. I like to come up with ideas that are solving problems for myself, and if people like them, I like to bring them to market. I have a handful of patents. Some are technical, some are not technical. Some are good, some are not good. I don't know if you know this, but the USPTO will give anyone a patent. It doesn't have to necessarily be a good idea. So I have about 17 patents.
16 are good?
16 are good.
Oh,
no, actually, it's more like 4 are good. 4 have paid their way, right? The other ones just got along for a free ride. I've invented video sharing before YouTube for action sports. I did the helmet camera before GoPro, a company called Viosport out of northern Michigan. I think a lot of our mutual friends may have had those products over the years. And then I realized, and kind of to round this out, is I realized that not all innovators and inventors are necessarily entrepreneurs. And we wrap that up into the same thing quite often, and that can be very troublesome for an inventor and an innovator who wants to get a product into the marketplace but doesn't know all of the other things. And so as an inventor, people will come up to me on a regular basis and say, David, I have an idea. I can't tell you what it is because you'll steal it, but I don't know how to get started, right? And so I created a couple of programs, one in northern Michigan called Invent at NMU, where I realized that even small communities have people who have ideas, but they need help bringing those ideas to market. And then I went down to Flint, Michigan, and I spent about 3 years in Flint doing the same thing for a whole other group of people that weren't getting the kind of support to help innovators and entrepreneurs. And so here I am now on a stage with Fred.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a fantastic thing. This is like a shared speed dating event.
There we go. So I too am born in 1970, and I grew up in a place where it wasn't in or out, just wasn't parents around, so I had no place to go besides out. And let me explain. Everyone has lots of stories, and we can tell lots of channels. But as it relates to this specifically, I grew up in a household though where in a friends group where outdoors was key. Right? We hiked, we surfed, we biked, we skateboarded, we went to the desert, we did drugs, we camped, we did everything across the board, and spent most of my youth doing that until I got until after college, where where I ended up getting into the software industry and spent a good 20, at this point, 25 years now, involved in the software industry. How the rest outdoors, I'll come back to in a second, but I learned to understand what was going on in the software industry and spent most of my time disrupting the software industry. Understanding that what was once the software industry, and by the way, the software industry you know now, your apps, etc., that didn't exist 20 years ago, as we know, and was much more complicated. Much of the disruption, much of what you feel today is around, or used today, is based on this disruption that had happened. So most of my career in the software industry was around this disruption. I combined that with, as it turns out, with my love of the outdoors, as well as our relationship with corporate partners to get where we are today. And really, as I look at the outdoor space, and I look at what we're talking about today, I'm looking and saying, how is the outdoor space, how is the recreational space being disrupted in the same way that the software industry is being disrupted? What are the trends? What's happening? What's it mean for us as a society? What's it mean for all of you as you think and act within the outdoor space, etc.? So my view, as we're talking about today, is around this disruption, how it's changing and where it's going. I'm not an inventor per se, I'm more the business guy, but I see where things are going. It's sort of the base of what we're talking about today.
So where's it going?
Great question. Listen, I think there's a lot of trends happening in the outdoor space right now that are at least affecting the outdoor space. You heard in the last panel about COVID and how that forced people to be outside, and that continues, right? I think that continues a great deal across all of society. I can name dozens of friends and my family's friends who would never have gone camping but now go camping or go outdoors in real time. I think that generationally what's happening is the old days of owning large vehicles and vehicles that were gas guzzlers and that were, as Sam pointed out, RVs or just living rooms, those days are gone, and the next consumer wants something different. They either want more sustainable products, they want to only rent products as opposed to own them. All this is changing the way we think about outdoors and where it's going. At the same time that I think generally we're going back to basics in America. One of the key mantras of America in the 18th century was westward ho, and I think that mentality is coming back into us as we think about society and we try and get off our phones and going forward. So there's a whole litany of things happening that are changing the outdoor space and the way things are going.
So how about Midwestern ho now?
Well, why don't you, you're an expert in the Midwest, so what
right?
are you seeing?
So I'm seeing a couple things. One is, and this was kind of hinted at in the last panel, there was a lot of exuberance around this growth of outdoor recreation. These companies were so excited. The bike industry was like, finally, the moment we've been waiting for. This is amazing. We're now large companies. We're so excited. We have all of this demand. And then they went out and ordered the crap out of everything they possibly could, and then supply chains fell apart, and now bicycles are half off.
Right.
And so a lot of people would say, well, wait a minute, that doesn't look good for the outdoor industry. I think it's actually fantastic for the outdoor industry, because here's what I think is happening. I think that you have a new influx of all sorts of different perspectives and different people coming into something. And whenever there is a new influx, innovation automatically happens. I was recently at an event in northern Michigan called Ice Fest, and I was working with the state of Michigan and their booth to support outdoor innovation. And a gentleman in, I want to say their 70s, came up with his briefcase full of climbing inventions. And he's like, I just got into this sport 4 years ago, right? And so here's a 70-year-old who just got into a sport 4 years ago with a briefcase full of new innovations, right? And so we see that Trek bicycles is going to downsize by about 10%, and they're going to limit the amount of SKUs that they have in their inventory, okay? So that's not great for Trek because they have to balance their legacy and their heritage and continue to have sales. Here's why it's good for the outdoor industry. A large portion of the people working in that space are about to be free birds. They are liquefying the workforce, and those people are now going to start thinking about, there's this product that I've wanted to bring to market, I have these connections, and so I think that all of this activity around new ways of experiencing, new products to experience, the electrification of things are going to cause an explosion of innovations and bring individuals out of the woodwork, that are going to really rock the heritage of the sports, but also bring in new folks to outdoor recreation that we've not seen in the past. And so it's kind of what color is your parachute, or a singularity type event.
You're really old if you remember that book.
Yeah,
okay,
we don't know what's going to happen, right? I'm as old as you are.
That's true, but I'm young at heart. I don't know how old you are inside, right?
I'm like terribly old.
Well, you should bring up bikes, because that's a great example of where I see this innovation and bringing people in the outdoor space. Listen, I grew up as a mountain biker. I spent my life on BMX bikes, and I didn't wear helmets, and I have scars on my face. You can see if I showed you from those activities. And I grew up mountain biking. So, and then I have a 20-year-old son, and he wanted to go down to Bentonville, Arkansas, which, if you don't know, is one of the mountain biking capitals of the world. Walmart spent ungodly amounts of money to make thousands of miles of trails. And so we're down there, and I'm like, great, I can go with you. We can do 3-4 full days of biking, no problem, right? I'm like, and then I realized about halfway through the second day, I'm like, I'm not 20 years old anymore, and I'm not as lean and mean as I used to be. And so on the third day, I rented an electric bike. And so I got to cheat, right? I got to cheat in the sense that I was still mountain biking. I didn't have to push as hard up the hill, and I could do the fact that he could go off and be as strong as he wanted. And of course, he made fun of me and called me an old man. That's what my son does, etc. But it opened up the outdoor space in a way that got us to do 2 extra days that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And I think that's emblematic of what's happening. Is these innovations are happening in the innovation space or the outdoor space that are allowing people who weren't part of it before to be more actively involved.
I mean, it's fantastic. And so how many people have been to Bentonville, Arkansas? Okay, put it on your list. It's a must stop, and here's why.
Go ahead.
You go. No.
I would say, people always joke, is there another reason to go to Arkansas? But yes, Bentonville is a reason to go.
Yeah, Bentonville is the reason to go. I actually have friends who are building trails in Bentonville right now. The Walton brothers, Tom and Stuart, are mountain bikers, and they traveled to northern Michigan, to a little town called Copper Harbor, where a person had started one of the first commercial trail building companies.
Okay.
And you can think of that commercial trail building company as literally the same type of road crew you would see out creating a highway or a road. They invented a whole industry around creating trails. Do you know how much money they are spending in Bentonville, Arkansas right now per mile of single track?
No.
$50,000 a mile.
Per mile?
Per mile.
Well, it's good that they've got a couple billionaires doing it.
And so billionaires get to do that, and part of innovation and invention and entrepreneurship is providing accessibilities for others to be able to do that. But Tom and Stuart Walton traveled to northern Michigan, find these trails in Copper Harbor, a town of literally just a couple hundred people, and it's become a mountain biking destination. And Tom and Stuart said to Aaron Rodgers, not the football player, Aaron Rodgers of Rock Solid Trail Building, you're going to move to Bentonville. And they spent $300 million building trails in Bentonville, Arkansas, but not the trails that you rode, not Elfin Forest, and not stuff that was in San Diego, and not stuff that was in Lake Tahoe. They actually built trails, so whole families. So when you and I were mountain biking, I'm going to assume, it was your friends and you're going for a bike ride. It was not families.
Right.
Families now ride together. And I've had the joy of being able to ride with my families, right? But when you go to Bentonville, you see the average household family is who are on bikes now. And they created the trail systems to accommodate families by creating 5 different ways to go down a mountain in the same way that you do skiing, with a green circle, a blue square, or a black diamond. And so the entire family, depending on whatever your skill level is, all gets to ride together. So the amount of innovation that came from Bentonville of the future of biking, just the experience itself, not even starting to talk about the technology of electric bicycles or towies, or how do you get the entire family out there. And they've completely rewritten the book on that, and they've been purposeful in creating an innovation ecosystem as well as a place for the end user consumer to be able to play.
So I'd love to get your opinion on the outdoor space in writ large. That's a big term, outdoor lifestyle, outdoor world, right? And if we went to Seattle and I talked to the CEO of REI, he would say, we do everything that doesn't have a motor, right? Or everything that doesn't have gas or propulsion. That's a far cry from a Brunswick or a Thor who does RVs, or an Airstream who does RVs. Although today, in partnership with us, we're electrifying those vehicles. And I would guess if I went to see the REI, you'd say, okay, well that's okay because it's more sustainable, and he's starting to think about it as part of the experience. What are you seeing happening in this convergence of the outdoor space, or is it remaining separate in your mind?
No, I think what's most exciting is that there is a convergence that's going to create an argument that's going to create an outcome, right? And so we'll look at the electric bicycle, for example. When is an electric bicycle not an electric motorcycle, and who can be on those trails? And so I'm going to use California as an example. I went to school in Northern California for a little bit of time, and the mountain biking trails were along the American River Canyon.
Yeah.
But they weren't mountain bike trails, those were equestrian trails. And somewhere in my scrapbook of Davo history, I got a ticket from illegally riding a trail that was meant for equestrians.
I've got one of those, yeah.
Yeah, right? And so, do you still get tickets for riding mountain bikes on equestrian trails?
Not that I remember, not recently.
I don't think you do, right? Because now they're mountain bike trails. And so, I think one of the interesting things about outdoor today, you have new people coming into the sport. You have heritage companies that are restacking their human resource deck. That is going to release all sorts of talent into the wild. And I can't say this without, I can't be sitting at Midwest House without saying it. A lot of those people want to return to their Midwestern roots, and they're looking for opportunities to be able to do that, and they are leaving California, and they're leaving the coasts, and they're coming back to the Midwest. What an awesome opportunity of attracting talent. And so now you have new people on the end user side. You have liquefaction of the workforce and the innovators and the designers and the engineers. And then you have this new technology. And so when you have all of those aspects, so the answer to your question is, no idea, and isn't it a great time to be alive, because we get to see the transformation of an entire industry, the reclassification of it, new accessibility for who gets to participate in it. And there was a comment that was made, a good question, right? If you wanted to go do outdoor recreation tomorrow, how would you find out? And typically, when I grew up, it was, I'll do an example. I came from the Midwest when I moved to your hometown of Southern California, San Diego, Carlsbad area. I was actually a ski instructor at Big Bear when I was going to high school in Southern California, right? And so I took people skiing from San Diego who had not been skiing before to create those experiences. And typically, if you were going to get indoctrinated into an outdoor experience, it's because somebody invited you along, was willing to take someone out that didn't have the experience and get you up to speed, and the next day you went out and you bought a kit. But now I think that's different. I think you're going to see curated experience. You're going to see service companies, and people are going to get a taste of the outdoors, and then it's going to grow from there. So I don't think we can predict what's going to happen, but I can say it's going to be more colorful. It'll be more accessible.
More diverse.
More diverse. The opportunity to try new things is going to be easier, and I think the cost of ownership is going to be a little bit less, because you're not making all of these purchases, tying up all of your revenue or your income into owning a product. Polaris is doing it. You mentioned Brunswick is doing it. Other companies are doing it. Fractional experiences, I think, is going to be a large part of the future.
Yeah, that's a big thing happening. The one I mentioned was Freedom Boat Club, which is a offshoot of Brunswick, who realized 5 years ago that the next generation didn't want to buy boats in the way they did before. They wanted to be part of a club that allowed them to use it when it was possible, but not have to have the old adage of they didn't want to deal with the old adage of what's the best kind of boat, best days to your boat, the day you buy and the day you sell it, right? They didn't want people that didn't want to deal with that adage, and so they're going to build $1 billion business simply on rentals. We'll come back to that string in a second. I want to pull on the Midwest though, because Midwest you don't think of generally as outdoors, right? I think, and even the example we're talking about, the hills of California, the mountains of Colorado, those tend to be the ones you think about. But you're doing some stuff in Michigan I think is really interesting and plays to the Midwest as the center of the outdoor economy going forward.
Gosh, I love this, what a setup. Yeah, I have a big dream. And that dream for me is to have these kinds of conversations in parts of the country that don't get to have these conversations. And so one of the things that I realized living in Michigan, spending time in the UP, and how many people know what the UP of Michigan is, okay? It's roughly 30% of the landmass and 3% of the population. Every state has some sort of rural community, and what I realized is, in order for us to have economic relevance, we have to have an economy that's relevant to our urban centers, and so in this case, it's Detroit. And so I have a dream. I own 3.5 acres in the UP of Michigan, and I'm building a project called Shophouse Park. So imagine Airbnb meets WeWork meets corporate experience where you have a garage and you have an apartment, and it's sitting on a piece of property that the North Country Trail goes through, and a ski race with 3,000 people come through, and a bike race comes through, and it's at this confluence of commercial industrial to outdoor recreation. And what I want to build is a trap to attract people like you and your cohort and your friends and your colleagues and the industries to spend 2 weeks in a rural community where you can bike and you can go on the lake and you can hike and you can do all of the outdoor recreation, motorized, non-motorized. There's over 8,000 miles of motorized trails across the entire UP. No one has figured out that we could electrify rural communities with infrastructure so that it's not about going from Austin to Seattle. This is awesome, I get to say this when I'm here. Going from Austin to Seattle, stopping at a Starbucks to charge your car. What about the electric snowmobile, the electric ORV, the electric ATV, and can we activate these rural communities so not to be a part of the end of the value proposition, which is at the use, but how do you leverage that to be part of the innovation, invention, entrepreneurial ecosystem to lure people to the Midwest to curate these experiences? And at the end of the day, all I want is a place to gather folks like this in my hometown to create economic relevance so that my kids will be able to live there in the future, and that we don't become the next Lake Tahoe, because I don't know when the last time you've been to Lake Tahoe, but you see that reaction when you talk about Lake Tahoe? That's the last job I actually had. It was in the early 90s, and I was a valet parking attendant at Harvey's Casino. And I can't bring myself to going back because of what's happened, because of the overuse, the overwealth from the Bay Area, squeezing people out of a place that they love. And so if outdoor recreation is gonna grow, those rural economies have to figure out a way to be relevant in the economy without being overexploited in the resources that you have. And I think part of that is building more on the front end versus the back end.
Yeah. Place bums me out. It's not so much Tahoe, it's Truckee. I remember Truckee was if you don't know, Truckee was a small mountain town at one point, and now it's become, Lululemon shops. And
Truckee ain't Truckee any longer.
Truckee ain't Truckee anymore. And by the way, it's interesting that you say that at the UP, because during COVID, I went to the UP for the first time, spent a week and a year with my family, because there was nothing else to do, and I was like, this is the most beautiful place I've never been to in my life, but no one's there, right? There's no one there.
Yeah, my kind of people.
Well, that gets to a bigger point, right? Which is, I think from a standpoint of the Midwest, we have a lot of resources outdoor. They may not be hills, but we have resources in beautiful places. We have manufacturers. We talk about Thor, Bruns, we talk about Polaris, we talk about the automakers, even Rivian's now is in Illinois. You have people making technologies that are going to make the outdoors, use in the outdoors, more sustainable. At the same time that people are looking obviously for more of the outdoors. You get to a point though, which I'm struggling with, is my son will say to me, I don't want more camping because that's more people on the trail or more people at the campground, right? So I had my son look at Rambo and say, okay, what was the difference? How was he thinking about Rambo as a 20-year-old versus how I would think about it as a, whatever I am, old man? And there's this confluence where you're gonna have too many people. But what's gonna happen, I think, where the Midwest is in a good place is they're recognizing that's coming and trying to create enough space to allow everyone to be part of it and do interesting things, as opposed to everyone going to Tahoe or to Big Bear is the only places. And so Midwest is a good place. Confluence of the manufacturers are building this, the government saying, we've got tons of land, let's make it useful and make it such that it's not overcrowded, et cetera.
So I think there's going to be kind of two aspects to this coin. One is, I go deeper and further now than I normally would, right? So for me, for my outdoor recreation experience, I might go further away from the crowds or to the unusual places, and I've got funny little name, so if you're in Marquette, everyone goes to Sugarloaf and Hogback, but I go to Fork Mountain, which I named because there was a fork on it. But, and so you go places where other people aren't going. But, okay, so let's talk about technology. How is technology going to affect what I think you're talking about is load balancing of outdoor recreation experiences? And so I get really excited when I think of the confluence of the auto industry being in Michigan and all of the technology, the engineering, the design, the manufacturing, and then how that could be applied to the outdoor industry. Okay? So Fred and I just met, but I'm going to assume that if we were both in a ATV or a UTV or a side-by-side, and let's say it's electric, and we're having our outdoor recreation...
I'm in the sidecar you're driving, right?
No, you're separate. You're on your own adventure.
Oh, I thought
I'm
I was
on
in your sidecar.
I'm on my own adventure, okay? And I'm going, gosh, the last person I want to run into on this adventure is Fred. And so how am I going to load balance this experience? Well, I believe that the technology will be in the vehicle that says, hey, you're going west, someone else is going north, there's going to be an intersection, and the technology can actually make it so we don't see each other. Now, that's a whimsical way of seeing that, but that way I can have a load-balanced experience in the outdoor world without running into you. But you can take that into a more serious context. Not this year, because I don't know if anyone knows, winter actually didn't happen in the country this year. But the previous year, there was 18 snowmobiling deaths in the UP of Michigan. There is zero technology in a snowmobile right now that avoids that. But that technology is available.
You're right.
Right? So why are we not taking that technology and figuring out how to integrate it into these different experiences? And I think we will, but it's going to have to do with the relaxing of the legacy and heritage from the corporations, and for the opening up of the accessibility for innovation and entrepreneurship to participate with new ideas, because the biggest thing is access to market.
Yeah, I think the legacy corporations recognize, at least in our experience, the ones we're working with, recognize that these technologies are critical to their future, that the customers are demanding it in a way they didn't before. Simply just producing vehicles the way they did doesn't work. Back to the panel before, Sam's producing the grounded RV, right? It is completely different, not completely different, but it is different than what has been out there before in terms of its battery, in terms of production, in terms of the way it's designed, et cetera. And that's, he's on the forefront of where these things are going. Interesting about technology and not being with anyone else, but technology could also be good in the sense that it allow you to find that community where you want it, right? So maybe we're ATV and we don't want to run into each other, but when it comes time to have a beer at the end of the day, I want to go somewhere where there's a place, a campground where it's like-minded people and I'm not sure we're going to create dating apps for the outdoors, but at least a place where there's at least semblance of a similarity to go have that beer and then go off and do their own thing.
Well, I think you're touching on something, and outdoors is you obviously have your John Muirs, right, alone in the Sierras all by themselves with just some sheep for a long period of time, right?
Don't talk about the sheep.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about this mutton, right? But you also have this collaboration and this camaraderie that comes with it, and what comes with that is shared experiences, and that's what I think is really important in opening that up. I drove a van across the country to get here. It's no grounded RV, I can promise you that. And I was thinking about that the whole way as it's rattling, and it drives more like a balloon on a roller skate.
He'll be the next one to sign up for the order, don't worry.
But you think about that, and you think about where do I overnight, and is it safe at a Love's? And Love's now has RV stops, right? And I think there's incredible opportunities for those types of things as well. So that technology has the opportunity of bringing us together, but also even the hardest outdoor recreation people are starting to accept technology that you wouldn't believe they would. GPS, emergency location
LiDAR.
Beacons, right? If you've ever been on a motorcycle tour, I've done a lot of cross-country adventure tours, pre-helmet radio communication and post-helmet radio communication. You know when is better? Post-helmet communication, because you can say, hey, that car right there is about to kill you, heads up, and that keeps people alive, and it's super helpful. So there will be a blending of these technologies, There'll be a blending of innovation. At the root of it, outdoor experiences will always, you can always get as dirty as you would like, but you can do it with options, I think.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on sort of two big trends we see. One is that the technologies are transforming the activity, whether it's the most innovative skis or the most electric motor of the RV. There's whole swaths of that happening now because what was available before is now available. It's sort of at a mass market level, and those technologies, ideas are transcending down to more consumer products. But I also think that technology is, as you said, transforming the way we do outdoors in a way that allows us to have better experiences, more appropriate experiences to what we want, change and fly with real time based on things. We're invested in a company called RoadPass, which is developing an autopilot technology that if you will choose your path, it'll tell you exactly where you need to go without having to work about it based on 38 million trips taken before, right? An AI technology. That's transformative for my mother who wants to go from San Diego to Arizona and wants to know what do I go see along the way. So it changes the whole game.
And I think, I'm going to say something I might regret, right? I think a lot of folks kind of coming in, I want to say lazy, but I don't think that's the right word. They get to leverage a lot of past experiences from other folks, right? With getting into the outdoor experiences. But one example is in the motorcycle adventure. You have backcountry discovery routes, right? And that's a nonprofit that is creating curated routes that you can load into your GPS so you can follow a prescribed route through a state or through a region. To me, part of the experience is creating the route and figuring it all out. But on a 8-day motorcycle trip, you might actually spend 6 days preparing for that.
Right.
And so if you're not that person that's going to be doing that, you can go to a BDR, go to the website, download the GPS, and now you have a curated experience. I think there's a double-edged sword in that. I think the opportunity is increased accessibility, more experience, traveling to new places, a little bit safer than being totally out on your own. But also, it's kind of like, how many unprepared people are you sending out into the outdoor world? And when it hits the fan, because it will hit the fan, do they know what to do in that situation to make sure they can take care of themselves? And you see this, I think, in the data of increase of search and rescue happening right now, further and further out, and more people not having the experience to be able to manage themselves in the outdoors.
So I'm guessing we could talk probably for 5 hours based on all sorts of things because we have similar backgrounds. I want to open to the audience and see if you guys had questions or want to jump into the dialogue at all. Anything you guys want to talk about? Nobody has an opinion, huh? I find that hard to believe.
How many people outdoor recreated today? Okay, so there was, and so that was a curated fishing experience, or what are some of the experiences that happened today? Fishing. Anything else? You went bike riding?
Okay.
How many people camped last night? I didn't. I got a hotel, but I was camping on the way here.
You were camping on the way here.
I camped on the way here, and I don't know where I'm going to live for the next 2 weeks other than I've got a bed in the back of my van.
Are you not going back? You're not going home?
I'm launching a new product. Here's my shameless plug.
Let him do a shameless plug. Here we go.
How many disc golfers in the crowd? One, two, three, right? Statistically, there are a lot. So, I'll use this as an example, right? Disc golf has gone through an incredible amount of growth, especially because of COVID. Many people are out on the courses now. If you load the disc golfing app, you would be astounded at how many disc golf courses are in your neighborhood. But in addition to South by Southwest, there's 3 pro stop tours. The Professional Disc Golf Association is in Waco right now. And there's 160 professional athletes and about 3,000 folks watching that. Then they're going to come to Austin, and then there's one more stop, and then it's a global tour. It's a big deal. It's a super accessible sport. When I started playing it, I wanted to be able to carry my snacks and my reading glasses because I'm over 50, and my discs. And so I made a prototype in my garage. And this is the most quintessential thing I think any inventor and innovator needs to do. Here's my hot take. You don't always need a business plan canvas. what you actually need to do is make your product and you bring it out into the wild, and then you find out if people care. And this is the process. So I have put $5,000 into this stupid box over the last year, and I'm going to find out in the next 2 weeks if anyone cares. And if they care enough to buy it, then I have a new business, and that business is going to start paying its way from here on out. And I don't care if you're doing something that's super technical or super simple. The process is the same thing. Build a prototype, get it out into the world, find out if people care, and if they do, build a company.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I think that's sort of the history of the outdoor space. If you think about the foundation of Patagonia and North Face, these are two guys who just wanted to hike and camp in Yosemite and build products that became behemoth companies based on that. And as you've talked to other people here today, talking about where they had their COVID experience, it was, let's just build a product and see what happens. And I hope that spirit retains in the outdoor space for some time. It's a little more interesting than I built a new software product because I saw a solution to solve HR problems.
You know, everyone
the HR problems can be solved by people going outdoors, but putting that aside.
Everyone likes to talk about the innovator, the entrepreneur that started in a garage. There is no industry that can come close to competing with how many of these companies have started in a garage and will tomorrow and the next day. I think for the future of all time, outdoor is some of the most innovative, inspiring, collaborative, and authentic people. And that's who I want developing products for me that I want to take outside.
And from my perspective, from an investing perspective, we're finding such great technology, such great ideas, such great products and services. It's just it's a bounty of things we can invest in, and we don't even know what to do all of them. So we look forward to continuing to that space. And looks like Maddie's kicking us off the
Pulling
stage.
out.
I'm getting my cane out.
Thank you.
Pull you off stage. Thank you.
This was great.
Thank you all
David
for the chance
and
to
Fred.
talk.
Give them a round of applause,
Thank you.
folks.
That's fun.
That was super good. Yeah, appreciate it.
How would you rate your speed date?
I thought it was good. I'm looking forward to a next date.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. As a reminder, I'm Madeline Rudder, Senior Director of Collaboration at TechNexus. This was our TechNexus Venture Collaborative Innovation Showcase. We talked about the ecosystem at large here in the outdoors, from corporate development to entrepreneurs to all these really rich hot takes, lukewarm takes, and insights. So thank you for hanging out with us today, and we'll see you around Midwest House. Thanks all.